Executive producer, Brian Herzog. Presents Bobby Clark. Education, current events, and topics that affect you.
Welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm Bobby Clark, your host. Today we're going to be talking about the many murders of our children in Baton Rouge. We know it's happening all over, but for right now we're going to deal with Baton Rouge and what's happening here and what we can do as a community to make a difference. My guests are Dr. Albert Green, who's pastor of Nazarene Baptist Church, and also Mount Gilliam Baptist Church, which is in South Baton Rouge, and also Pastor Melvin Rushing, who is pastor of Progressive Baptist Church and Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church, which is on North 35th, because I know that we have another Mount Pilgrim, which is on Scenic Highway. Yes. Okay. It is so good to have the both of you with me today.
Thank you.
Good
for having me.
Okay. Yes. We are, as I call it, we are in turmoil. I am just, the news, I'm starting to dread the news. So often, it's coming on and we have so many of our youth who are being killed, and if not killed, injured. And some, you look around and you see all of them, some in wheelchairs or in situations that I don't remember growing, and I grew up in Baton Rouge, and I don't remember these kinds of things happening. You had a fight, but you didn't wind up dead. And now what we're looking at is these high numbers. I know 2013 it dropped, I want to say, down into the low 80s, but 2012 it was like 83. And most of those deaths are our youth. And we want to talk today about how do we, what is the role of the church, and how can the church make a difference here, and what is our role as a community in making sure that our children are safe. Dr. Green?
Bobby, I need to go back and deal with just a little bit of history.
Okay.
History teaches us that the churches, after the Emancipation Proclamation period, that churches got together and they put together within their buildings situations for individuals to go beyond sixth grade. Okay. They then established what we know as the associations, so that they could come together as a whole and do more than what one local church could do as it relates to helping our children to advance. They graduated from that. The association started what we know as the state conventions, and then it got regional. But our state conventions had a lot to do with the growth of colleges that we have, that has been historical colleges that have been here, were actually started by the church. So we
one of those was Leland College, which was in Baker.
Yes.
Who produced many professors.
Several colleges, especially for black people at that time, they grew out of this movement that started with the church and moved into the association and, of course, into the state convention. Now we have the schools, and I have to give credit to our teachers in East Baton Rouge Parish, because there are reports that people don't want others to know about, that gives good credit to our institutional directors, and we're talking about our high school principals, our teachers as well. Things have happened in Baton Rouge that is looking great. So there are programs that we can take and start now.
Things like what?
Well, Let's talk about the performance of East Baton Rouge Parish School System. Right now, our parish school system in East Baton Rouge Parish has earned a 95.3 district state for 2013. In other words, this is the highest score that they have had in performance within our system. And of course, each Baton Rouge Parish school system, the students has earned an overall 23-point academic performance gain from the state over the past 6 years. So there are good things that are happening with our children. 87% of East Baton Rouge Parish schools are currently rated as academically acceptable. When we were listening at the nice stories about how they were failing academically. But our schools are actually moving up. And it places us in a position of being able to now come up with better programs so that we can help some of our young people who are going to be graduating out of the school system, but we have to start with them somewhere around 9th, 10th, 11th grade, and by the time they become seniors, they will be prepared to enter into the college world. Pastor Rushing, you can elaborate on some of this.
And I think it's important to recognize the fact that oftentimes we have students who are traveling tremendous distances across our community to attend schools. And with all of the pressures that brings to bear, we lose sense of the place of the church in this effort. I mean, we have to champion the schools in our community, but more than that, we have to be vigilant in maintaining a partnership with those schools, and that's one of the disconnects that I believe exist. We have pockets where you see evidence of these partnerships, but it's not as broad as it needs to be. And when you lose that sense of community and connection, it's as if the kids are out on an island. There is no question that within our school system, we've seen gains and advances in terms of student performance, in terms of achievement, and as Pastor Green said, those things are not always publicized like they need to be. We have some outstanding teachers, administrators, and students in our community. And the church's role is going to be what it's always been. First of all, to be that moral center, but also to be the backbone of the community and to create an enthusiasm within the community to maintain its involvement in those school systems. The violence that exists is at an all-time high, there's no doubt, but it's always been with our communities. What we have seen the decline in is the influence of the church in those communities. And I think part of what we're going to have to work toward is a larger cooperative or a larger effort at banding together. I would envision a place in our community where it doesn't matter where the student is in terms of where he goes to school. There's a church in that community that is partnering with other churches in the city to say to that student, we're here for you. This may not be your home church, it may not be where you go on a regular basis, but if there's a need, here we are and we're available to you and we're going to treat you like our own.
Okay, and let's talk about that. We know that in Louisiana we have TOPS.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And TOPS has been very instrumental in not only allowing students to be able to attend the four-year institutions, the public four-year institutes, meaning that depending upon that score, a minimum of 20, that allows you to be able to have tuition paid. Mm-hmm. Of course, as you are able to gain higher scores and a higher GPA, your grade point average, then you can also get even more monies from TOPS. Mm-hmm. TOPS also pays for community college and for a vocational school as well as the beauty schools. A lot of the students aren't aware of that, and they're being strapped with student loans. And those student loans, oftentimes these children may be using those student loans not only for school, but for housing mm-hmm. and other things. So what's happening is if they graduate, are leaving with sometimes $25,000 worth of debt as they enter into the world of moving forward. So how do what is our role? Now, just keep that in mind right now. We have to take a break here. And when we come back from this break, that's what we're going to be discussing, is how do we mesh all of this so that we're able to work better with our students and increase those ACT scores. We'll be back in just a moment with Let's Talk About It.
Sponsored by. Do you want to boost your student scores on the ACT? We can help.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. When we left, we had left some things on the table, talking about the ACT and how is there a role for the church in assisting the students in making higher scores on the ACT.
Bobby, I think that one of the things that we are looking towards, and I want to again thank you for the ACT Prep Company. We have enough churches if we demographically break up our city. We have enough churches in every area where churches can partner with each other so that we can put together a program of study. And we need to start, as I stated earlier, we need to start with individuals even in 9th grade. If we can set up these study areas within our churches, and it's going to take unifying our efforts, because let me see if I do it another way. On the 1st of June, Pastor Rushing is Dean of our Congress of Christian Education, and Pastor Thomas Bessex is our president. There are things with what we are talking about now that I know the two of them are going to impress upon the young people during the day when they come together for Congress. When we look at what we're talking about as far as ACT Prep is concerned, I believe that within our Congress of Christian Education, because we are seeing roughly how many kids in the course of a day?
Between 400 and 600.
Between 400 and 600 kids. If we can take this same program and allow them to know that we are going to come together with area churches so that we can demographically cover all of the areas of East Baton Rouge Parish, I think it would be one of the best things that could happen within East Baton Rouge Parish, and we would have more individuals that will be looking towards going to colleges and universities instead of having so many of our children being picked up and taken to the jailhouse or to
Absolutely.
the prison system. Yes.
Okay. Sounds like a great idea.
Yes.
So now, when is this conference going to be held?
The Congress of Christian Education is held June the 2nd through the 6th. It'll be conducted at Scotlandville High School. Our children will begin at 7 a.m. and go till 1 o'clock doing Bible study and performing arts, and then the adults meet every evening at the school.
Okay. All right. And this was when the students would be introduced to the concept.
Yeah, well, we want to look at, first, we have to come together as pastors, regardless of what organizations you may belong to. I mean, we have several ministerial organizations within the parish. I was talking yesterday with the president of the Progressive Association, and they were in session Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And one of the things that he said to me is, I'm so happy to talk to you. What part of this do you belong to? Well, I'm talking East Baton Rouge Parish, I'm talking 4th District, and yet we are so divided, and we have so many entities of ministers and organizations that's around us in East Baton Rouge Parish.
Excuse me, how many districts are there?
Oh, wow.
There are quite a few, huh?
I think I need to call my president in on this one so that he can probably help us with that. But we have several different organizations within East Baton Rouge Parish. We have our 4th District, we have Emmanuel Aid, we have the Progressive, we have several other entities within our parish. And my problem is simply this. All of us are supposed to be working for the common cause, common good. We not only have the responsibility to biblically teach our children, but we also have the responsibility of ensuring that our children are educated. Now, where I came from, the church was concerned about it, the people in the neighborhood were concerned about it, and the teachers that we had, they were not there just for a paycheck. They were there to make sure that we learned. And even if they had to extend their time beyond the 3:30 hour, which we got out of school during that period of time, if they had to extend that time, they had no problems with it. And we also had study programs that were set up within the community where if a student was falling short, they always had some help. We knew that help was on the way, not only from the Lord, but also from the people within the community who were also members of our congregations.
But also at that time, there were so few children who were failing.
Oh, that's true.
You know, if there were anyone, excuse me, who were failing, it was like a hum all the way through the school.
Yes.
Everybody knew everybody, and it was a different environment from where we are now. And so we need to see how we can still use those same techniques that were used during that time, even in the different environment we're in today. Would you suggest that makes sense?
It does make sense. And I think, again, part of this partnership that we're talking about developing among the churches has to have as a component that we're all speaking the same message.
Absolutely.
And that is that what we're interested in is the success of every student.
Yes.
Every student can succeed, and it's going to be our goal to make sure that they have everything they need to succeed. And that's why I think the prep program, the ACT prep program, has so much potential because of what it provides in the way of opportunity, not just for the college bound, but for also those who are career minded in terms of attending the trade schools and what have you. It opens that opportunity up to them, and again, what it does within the confines of the school community is having all of the students now working toward a similar goal, and that is being successful in the ACT testing.
Absolutely. Excuse me. There are so many jobs that are coming to Louisiana.
Yes.
And we're talking a lot of computer jobs, you know, from programming to information technology, and our children need to be a part of that. And so I like the ideas that the two of you are talking about, because it gives us that intro into starting with them early enough, that because the trade schools, they're looking at being able to become certified in information technology in 1 year.
Yes.
It doesn't take a long time. It's a lot of skills, though, and it's a lot of focus. But ideally, it is to have that child leaving out of high school, being able to take advantage of the TOPS money so that they don't have to start off with the student loans, which is what is really causing a lot of problems in the community.
Yes.
And it's
I think, Bobby, that one of the blessings that we have, and I'm sure Pastor Rushing as well as President Bessick will attest to this. Do you realize that in most of our churches we have retired teachers who still have it going on mentally?
Yes.
Who are still capable of teaching children?
Absolutely.
And all we have to do is just, as Dean Rushing said, if we can come together. I'm not concerned about what organization you belong to, as long as you are a child of God.
Yes.
And you recognize that He's the head of all of us. There should be no reason as to why we cannot come together with the resources that we have. It's like the church association situation. The association came into being because they were able to do more than what just a single local church could do. So if we can just come together and put all this other stuff aside, regardless to where I belong. Yes, I'm a member of 4th District. Yes, I teach in 4th District Congress. Yes, but what about these other churches? That does not restrict me that the only people I have to deal with is 4th District. My dean and my president, who is here with us right now, I'm not restricted to just them. But when we put our heads together, we can make things happen.
For the common good of our children.
For the common good of our children, yes.
Yes. And that is our ultimate task.
That's it.
is to make sure that they're safe and that they know they're loved. And I think that that is something that we have no choice but to do. So we're going to be back in just a moment. I've enjoyed this. And we're going to bring in Pastor Bessics.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And we're gonna delve into this some more. And we'll be back in just a moment with Let's Talk About It.
Sponsored by. Do you want to boost your student scores on the ACT? We can help.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. We've kind of switched seats here a bit, and Dr. Green has stepped away, and now we have Pastor Thomas X. Bessics with New Gideon Baptist Church. It's so good to have you back, and of course, we have Pastor Rushing. Excuse me with these names. But, and we're going to now talk about the conference that's coming forth on June 1st and going on through the, what's our end date?
June the 6th.
June 6th, okay?
Yes.
All right, who wants to start off?
Well, I guess I will.
Okay.
So it's the 4th District Congress of Christian Education. It's going to be held at Scotlandville High School. On Sunday is the association's mass choir musical that starts at 5 p.m. And then Monday through Friday.
Hold that thought for a moment. Now, the mass choirs,
Yes.
I love Christian music. So that's going to start at 5. So is that like a competition, or it's basically going to be one choir that are different choirs?
It is one choir that's in concert. It's our association
my.
choir that's in concert during that time. I like to call them our world-renowned 4th District Mass Choir.
Okay, because?
They're just an awesome group of singers.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. About how many in the choir?
About 85.
85 of these. Are these young people?
Young, a mixture.
A mixture.
Yes.
Okay, great. So tell us that again. So we want to make sure folks come out and see this great choir.
Okay, great. Yes, it's Sunday, June 1st at 5 p.m. Scotlandville High School.
Great. Okay, and so what happens June 2nd through the 6th?
From the 2nd through the 6th, we're having Christian education classes offered throughout the day. From 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. are classes for our children and youth, along with activities. Our children and youth have breakfast and lunch served. They go home at 1 o'clock. And then at 6 o'clock in the evening, our adult Christian Ed classes start. And they're from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. With a worship from 8 to 9.
Oh, beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful. Okay, so now is this the time, Pastor Rushing, where you're going to introduce the concept of the bringing in ACT to help the kids?
Yes.
Great.
You could say we have a captive audience
Yes.
every day.
And how many
certainly-
students, how many young people are we talking about?
Our goal is to have between 300 and 500 students.
Oh, beautiful.
We're really encouraging our churches to send their young people quality Christian education, and we'll introduce this concept during the week and share with our students the importance of preparing to take the ACT again, not just for those who are thinking of going to college, but also those who are thinking of pursuing other careers where they need to continue the education process. And at the same time, as Pastor Green stated, we'll be talking to pastors leading up to that time and during the week about partnering together as churches to provide the opportunities for these young people to take advantage of the prep programs that are available.
One of the things that Pastor Green mentioned, which I think is ideal, is starting early.
Yes.
And I having worked for many years in tutoring, having a tutoring service and working with ACT, I realized that our children do have some deficiencies. And by starting early and teaching them the test-taking skills that would be so important in making sure that they do good work. And for sure, I even suggest even 8th grade, starting that early. We've had folks in our camps who start their children as early as 6th grade, preparing them for the ACT, because the earlier they start, the earlier they start to understand the testing strategy, because there is a strategy to this, and the test goes all the way back to the 6th grade. So the importance of it is to get them started early, focused on it, and then the earlier they start, they get to see what the testing material looks like and how they can be better prepared. And so that we're looking at more of them receiving scholarships and TOPS, and less of them having to depend totally on student loans, if at all.
Yes, yes, yes.
I totally agree. And of course, with the increased the increase in terms of what the colleges are expecting in performances of our students, and the selectivity,
Yes.
it's going to be important that they do well in on these tests. And what I try to encourage the students to do is to just take it again. I mean,
Yes.
we want to be exposed, and we want them to grow in their confidence and their ability to actually accomplish those scores on the test. And so the more exposure, the better.
And the good thing about the ACT prep is that it allows the student to be pre-tested, midway tested, and post-tested.
Right.
And so they're having all of that that introduction to that test several times within the year. And the more often they take it, the more comfortable they get, like with anything else.
Right.
You know, the more often you're exposed to the classwork, the better you get at it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree with you about starting early, because many people go into college not knowing how to take a standardized test. And so definitely the earlier we start with it, the better off we will be in our end results of it.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that so often our children don't realize the relevance. And I've had them in camps. And one child, I'll never forget her, had a 4-point. And I said, well, what college are you going to? Oh, I can't afford college. I said, guess what? You have a 4-point. I know you can pass this test, and you're in the prep camp. Mm-hmm. So why would you think you're not going to college? So a lot of it also is building up that self-esteem and letting them know that there is nothing out there that they don't qualify for, because so much of it is for them to believe in themselves. And that's so much of what we have to work with also, is the self-esteem issue.
Yes. Now that self-esteem and character building issue, I believe that starts a little early. I think that should start at the 2 to 5 year old
elementary
stage. Yes, yes, really early.
Yes, it needs to start very early.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember a friend of mine who had PhD in chemistry and had come from a background that may not have been as strong, but he was brilliant, just brilliant. And the one thing that where the concern was for all of the persons who were working with him is his ability to believe in himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's where the church is so important, that environment, that atmosphere. We teach all of our congregations that we can do all things through Christ.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so the challenge then is to help them to realize that and to see it in the successes that they have. Even the small successes are important in building self-esteem, and also the idea of acceptance within that church community, the love that exists there that allows students to strive. And even when they don't make the level they think they should, they know that there's going to be somebody there to encourage them to continue on and to press on. So,
That safe haven.
yes.
Right.
And so often I see, so many times I've seen the kids, they'll come in and tell me that they're having problems in school or someone is bullying them. And we'd be surprised how many kids don't have someone that they feel that they can go to and share their thoughts and their concerns, and having the church there as their safe haven. I can't think of a better situation for our kids to be in.
Yes. We are their village.
Yes, we are. Yes. It is just such an honor to have the opportunity to talk with you with the 4th District, and your pushing forward with the ACT and working with the children. And I think with us having these kinds of discussions more and more, we will find that we will start to make a huge difference with our children.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you so much for stepping forth and taking on this humongous task. And I know it's in numbers that we can make that difference that we're really talking about here.
And then that's what we're hoping. A small church may not see its capacity to do this, but when we partner together
Yes.
and bring all the resources to bear, we can achieve it. We can make it
We
happen.
can make great things happen.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for being here, and we'll be talking some more.
Thank you.
And stay tuned to Let's Talk About It.
Sponsored by. Do you want to boost your student scores on the ACT? We can help.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. Our guest, Larry Billingsley. He is a 7th degree black belt and specializes in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
So good to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Great, great. We're going to talk, Larry, about self-defense. Whenever I read an article about children getting into the shooting, I'm older, and I came up, and if there were a disagreement, kids fought. They had a fight. They didn't shoot each other. And I'm just amazed at the number of children that we're losing. And my thought is that so often they do not understand the power of the gun. Can you talk about what is going on and how Taekwondo or martial arts could give them another, an alternative to what they're doing now?
Yeah, I think in the martial arts, a lot of times people are under the impression that it's just about fighting, but it's actually a lot more than just about fighting. And you learn a lot about people skills. You learn about your strengths and your weaknesses. And in the martial arts, what you do is it's sort of a philosophy. I practice it as a way of life, and that is I learn to be diligent about what I'm doing. I'm consistent. I'm always training. I'm always being on time. I'm learning how to respect other people, their strengths as well as their weaknesses. And that's one of the things that the martial arts teaches you is the difference. You get to learn what your strengths and your weaknesses are. And so when you get in a group environment, when you've got a class, you learn your strengths, your weaknesses, and you also learn the other people's strengths and weaknesses. And you don't look at them as faults anymore. Now you realize that everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and those things are things that you need to work on if you want to overcome them. So in the martial arts, what they do is they'll learn how to get along with other people. So they get people skills. You'll develop confidence. And at the same time, you learn how to defend yourself. And I think by using the martial arts as a vehicle to get, they learn respect, discipline, self-control. And I think those are the big three for nowadays. That's why a lot of these situations get out of hand. They don't, out of fear, they don't know how to deal with a situation, so they go get a gun.
So do you think that also it's that they're being bullied? Or do you think it's basically that they're going to get the gun because they are feeling threatened?
I think some of them are feeling threatened, but more than that, I think it's just an inability to know how to deal with that situation. You know, when you have situations come up and they feel like, well, I don't know what else to do. I'll just do what I heard somebody else do or what they seen on TV. Whereas when you're practicing martial arts, you learn how to deal with different situations. There are going to be incidents that come up, especially when you're kicking and punching at each other, where a person may lose their temper and they don't know how to react to that. And so, as an instructor, I'm there to say, hey, look, you don't have to get angry. I mean, it's all right to be mad or angry about it, but you can't blame that person for you. A lot of that responsibility falls on you. So I get them to accept the responsibility of their behavior. And so once a person starts to respect themselves and their own behavior, then they start to sort of calm down a little bit. Like I remember one time I had a lady bring her son in. She says, well, I don't know if I want him in the class because he's a bully. I said,
her son was a bully?
Her son was a bully.
Okay.
I said, well, no, this is the best place for him. Because I say, in here, he's going to find out that just because he's bigger doesn't mean he's the baddest kid around. And so when he learned that lesson, he stopped being a bully. Because then he realized that the kids you pick on might be a little better than you.
Yeah.
And then the embarrassment goes the other way. Most of the time, bullies are they only do it because they can. They figure they can do it. But if you're confident about what you're doing and you're like you speak with them, then most of the time you can resolve a fight without even getting involved in a fight. We say the ultimate goal is to be able to defend yourself without fighting. So that way I can talk my way out of it, and as a last recourse, that's when I might fight. Other than that, and I think doing it that way, the children learn how to deal with situations when they're confronted with a situation like that, say in school. They don't have to go get a gun. There's a way to just walk away, and it's not an embarrassment. Nobody thinks less of you. You'll be the bigger person by walking away,
So you think oftentimes if they knew how, they could walk away?
Yeah, I think if they knew what they were capable of doing, it's a lot easier to walk away from a situation when well, if I really wanted to, I could really take revenge on them or really do something to them. But when you have that ability and you don't use it, there's a certain amount of gratification comes from just being able to walk away and not have to fight.
I know I didn't keep it up. I regret that. But I took Taekwondo and I totally loved it. And I felt the need to have some self-defense strategies. And I was being bullied by someone. And the thing that made it so good, I said, leave me alone, leave me alone. And they wouldn't. And before they could keep coming at me, this is my foot in their face, but I never touched them. But the point that I was able to get my leg up that high and stop them, the guy said, you're crazy. And I said, no, but I told you to leave me alone. And I think that it gave me that confidence that, wow, he sure did leave me alone quick. And the thought that, if that was happening to me as a mature adult, then I imagine the power that it has to give a child to know that if they need it, to defend themselves, that there is something there that they have within themselves rather than to always think that they have to have a gun.
Yes. I know that's how I started in the martial arts. I was a real little guy. I think when I came out of high school, I probably was at my heaviest, and that's about 127. And so I started practicing the martial arts, one, because everybody was bigger than me, And I think the first martial arts I got involved with was judo. And I found that when we got down to the gym, they used to have the wrestling mats down there. And, so them bigger kids always, come on out here, And I was a little bit afraid, but after I started learning a few things, I got out there, and that first guy, every time he grabbed me, I'd throw him on the ground, and you just couldn't figure that out, what was going on. And, and I know that gave me a certain, it was like, hey, that little guy, he'll throw you down, and they just didn't want that. And so the bullying stopped, and my confidence left because now they sort of respected me a little bit more. Nobody really pushed me or, they weren't trying to take my lunch money anymore, so it was a great thing for me. And I think that's the thing that got me involved And that's why I've been involved in that. Probably 47 years I've been doing
Oh
martial
my.
arts.
Well, I've enjoyed having you on, and I think this is good for the children to see that there are alternatives, and martial arts is a great alternative. And that's what we're looking at. How do we teach them how to feel safe and yet not feel that it has to be where they're shooting or doing something that causes them, injuries and the other person and even death. And I thank you so much for being
And
here.
thank you for having me.
Okay.
Sponsored by. Do you want to boost your student scores on the ACT? We can help.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. And in the studio, we have Craig Herring, who is the originator of the ACT Mastery, who made perfect scores on the ACT and the SAT. And from that, developed a program that is now nationwide. Welcome, Craig.
Thanks for having me, Bobby.
Yes, always good to have you.
Good to be here.
And we're going to talk today about how ACT can work with ministers, and how you see that being an effective tool in increasing the scores of the children, and what grade they might, an ideal grade to start, as well as how it makes a difference in a child's life, whether that child is going to do 4-year college, community college, vocational school, etc.
Well, one thing to consider is that your ACT score is predictive. It can actually predict how you're going to do in college. The skills that you learn to do well in the ACT are the skills that you need in order to be able to thrive and succeed in college. Students who gain the skills they need for higher ACT scores find college to be easier, and they're more likely to get through. There's one thing of the issue of entering college, and we all know about, the TOPS program. If you get a 20 out of 36 on the ACT, you become eligible for Louisiana to pay you TOPS scholarship, which can basically pay for 4 years of in-state university. But then there's the question of sticking with it and getting all the way through. And a lot of times students, if they're not fully prepared, by the time they get into their junior year, they start to have trouble. I'm sure any listener on this show knows someone in their family who started college and didn't finish it, either because of financial issues, because they didn't have the scholarships they needed, or because of a challenge. Sometimes those classes can throw you for a loop, and sometimes the students that we work with aren't fully prepared for those challenges. So with ACT Mastery, yes, we're helping prepare the student for a test, but we're also helping them prepare for life. We're helping them prepare with the skills that they need in order to be able to succeed in college or in any kind of academic setting. So when you talk about a church,
Go ahead.
yeah, well, when you talk about a church that is trying to engage with its youth, trying to help get them ready to succeed in life, and the church is working with them on a spiritual level to help them improve their lives spiritually. One important aspect about a child's mental health and spiritual health is whether they feel like they can accomplish it, whether they can feel like they can achieve their goals. And when you help a student with improving their academic background and help them remediate the deficiencies that they have in their academics, that can be a big payoff for the student in the long run.
Now, the student might ask, well, how does studying for the ACT help me to improve just in all areas? How is that possible?
Well, one thing is, you can get away with a pretty high grade point average without having your reading level up to snuff. You might even be an honor roll student, but not have the reading level that you need to be able to do well on the ACT reading test or in college.
Or the vocabulary that's needed.
Absolutely, which is a big, and that's a big part of reading level. You could have, you could learn to memorize the things that you need in high school, but when it comes time to do a research paper in college, if you haven't learned those skills, it doesn't matter how much you memorize, you're still going to end up overwhelmed during that college experience. So it's better to learn these things now, learn these things in high school for your ACT score, and then that'll pay big dividends for you when you get into college and you're dealing with that, that higher level content, that more difficult stuff later on down the road.
I know with the ACT prep camps that we've had students as young as 6th grade who have taken the camps. What is the average age that a child, grade the child is in when they take start studying for the ACT?
Most students who do the ACT Mastery Program are juniors in high school, and the reason for that is that's around the time where you're getting your college admissions put in. Usually by the beginning of senior year, the fall of senior year, you need to have everything off to colleges, and parents and students try to get things ready before then. That being said, you want to start preparing.
Excuse me, but that's when they're taking the ACT test itself, right? But we're talking about studying for it, starting to take prep courses.
Right.
Is that also junior year?
Yeah, so usually they'll start in junior year. We have very forward-thinking parents who will start preparing their kids a lot earlier,
yes.
and it makes a lot of sense. ACT is testing things that go back all the way to 6th grade.
Yes.
And so if you have a freshman in high school who doesn't know these skills, then why wait to junior year to put out the fire? Why not, why let the house burn for a couple more years? Why not put the fire out right then and there, freshman year? So, we have a number of students who've experienced a great deal of success preparing for the ACT freshman year, sophomore year, even in middle school. A lot of students can benefit from working on those scores and working on that test as early as possible. It's such an important test. I mean, it's this one number that can mean so much for a student's future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And can save parents loads of dollars if the children have a good GPA and also make a good ACT score. And I've talked with many parents who say, well, we want to pay the money now for our child to get as much study as possible on the ACT. And so that our hopes of that are that we don't have to pay for college.
Let's face it, the amount of debt a student or parent can incur getting the student through college can be crushing.
Yes, it can.
And so you want to go into that. You kind of have this leverage situation where every minute the student spends on the front end preparing and trying to get scholarships can save them a year of work down the road, an extra year of time they have to spend paying off student loans. A very common thing that I hear when I go and do a workshop for students or go do an ACT prep program through ACT Mastery is that the parents come up and say, I wish I had this when I was a kid. I wish I could have known this when I was applying for scholarships. You don't ever want to look back on that college experience with regret, saying, wow, I should have really tried harder to get the scholarships.
Yes. We're going to take a break here, and we'll be back in just a moment with Let's Talk About It.
Sponsored by. Do you want to boost your student scores on the ACT? We can help.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. My friend Craig Gehring. He is the founder of ACT Mastery and made perfect scores on the ACT and the SAT. Not too many of those in the United States, huh, Craig? Congratulations to you for that monumental task. And we're going to talk some more about where our children can go once they have been successful with the ACT?
Well, one thing to think about when you're helping a child get the ACT score that they need, a lot of times they have to go through a transformation. A lot of times it takes some work, and they have to develop a work ethic in school that's going to help them for the rest of their lives. So, once a student's able to accomplish that, then they can go to college. A student who graduates college with a degree will earn, on average, $1 million more than a high school graduate over the course of his or her lifetime. There's a lot more opportunities there once you have that degree. But there's also the lessons that you learn. A lot of times students hold themselves back because they aren't intrinsically motivated. They're not motivating themselves to do what they need to get done. And so when they learn that, hey, I can be a self-starter. Hey, I can do this. I can accomplish this. I need to get that 20, and I work and I get that 20. That's a life lesson that can apply to many things besides just a test score, besides just, some scholarship. It can apply to when they're pursuing and getting work. It can apply to when they run into a difficult situation in their life that, that requires them to make a judgment. I mean, there's so many different areas where that can apply once the student knows that with effort I can succeed.
And those accomplishments start to multiply, and that confidence level builds up. Mm-hmm. So they see that I was able to make that 20 on the ACT, then that means there are other things that I thought I couldn't do that I in fact can do.
Right.
And so you do that, start having that can-do attitude instead of that I don't think I can.
Right.
Yes.
And with ACT Mastery, we're not just working on knowledge, which is very important. The students need to have that knowledge, but we're also working on helping students to improve their work ethic and helping them to improve their ability to motivate themselves.
Absolutely.
There's a book called How Children Succeed, and it talks about this very interesting study. Took a group of elementary school students and gave them an IQ test. And then 7 weeks later, they gave the students another IQ test, but they said, on this IQ test, we're going to give you an M&M for every correct answer you make on this IQ test. And the students' average IQ increased by 12 points.
All right,
because of those M&Ms. Right? Now, unfortunately, M&Ms don't motivate high school students at the same level.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that the right mindset and getting motivated and really working towards a goal can make a big impact on your test scores and in life. So we try to teach that to the students and help get them motivated to achieve all that they can, to take every opportunity they can to boost their ACT scores and to get into the college that they want to reach.
Now, in the African American community nationwide, the average score on the ACT is a 16. What can we do to get that score higher?
In any group of students that have a ACT score that's lower than what they call the college readiness benchmarks. So the typical college readiness benchmark is around a 21 on the ACT. If a student is scoring below that, one of the main things that holds them back is reading level. The student might not be exposed to as many vocabulary words as they need to be exposed to be able to perform well on the ACT and in college. They might need more exposure to reading, in and of itself, be able to read at a higher volume and level. If you have a student that's scoring at that 16 range, one of the best things that you can do, you don't have to know anything about the ACT at all. If you were to sit down, take an interest in that student, get them reading, and help them learn the vocabulary of what they're reading, they're going to benefit not only on the ACT, but in their academics as well. And so one of the first things that we work on in our ACT Mastery program is helping that student become a self-sufficient reader. Help them to learn how to build their own vocabulary as they read so they can make the most of their class time and the time that we have with them.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Because in everything, reading is required.
Reading is a must.
Yes. All of the math problems, you have to be able to read it and understand what you are being asked to do.
Absolutely.
Can't make it without the reading.
It's true.
Well, that's good information, and hopefully parents will listen to this and realize that that could be the major problem that we're seeing with our youth, is that they need to increase their reading levels.
Yeah, and another thing to consider is that if your child does not have the ACT score they need, the first thing is you need to set a goal. You need to go and find out, what ACT score do we need? What level of tops are we trying to get? What college do I want to get into, and what scores do I need? A lot of times colleges will have a minimum ACT score, but if you don't hit a certain level, you're going to have to do remedial classes. And so you want to know about that. Remedial classes don't count towards college credit. They don't count towards graduation. They just extend that runway, and they can be very expensive. Mm-hmm. So you want to know all these things. And then with that goal in mind, you want to get help. This is not something to try to do on your own. You've been working on your own, and on your own you'd be able to get so far. A tutor, a program can help interact with your child and help accelerate that process of building their confidence and building their score. There's nothing more confidence shattering than telling your kid, hey, sit down at this kitchen table, here's this massive ACT book, and you're on your own, kid. The only lesson the student learns from that is after 5 minutes, they learn that they don't know how to improve their ACT score. That's the lesson that they get. And so, you want to get your child the help that they need to be able to
How about the online program?
We have we've developed an ACT Mastery, an online program that basically we've recorded videos of me as though I'm walking your child through every single skill that they need to do well in the ACT. We've recorded these videos as well as practice questions, practice tests, everything. It's like a fully self-contained course that your students work through that they can do online on any computer, any smartphone, Android phone, tablet, Kindle, you name it, your child can go through this course. And this is a great way if you don't have access to a tutor or don't have access to being able to go to a after-school program. The online course can be a great way to get your child the help they need.
Great. And what has been the success with the ACT online program?
Our program averages around a 3-point gain with our students. Over 90% of the students who use the program improve. And we've seen students jump as many as 7, 8, 9, even 10 points on their ACT scores overall and in individual subject areas. A lot of times students have a lot of the general concepts, but they need something to help bring it all together, help them with their pace, help them with all the little nuances that can be artificially holding down their ACT score. And so we're able to help them overcome these things.
That is just beautiful and excellent information. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, always good to have you here. Thank you so much for listening and viewing us today. And we will see you next time with Let's Talk About It.